Please come in. You're right on time. The door only opens when the clock strikes midnight. Georgia and Hannah are preparing to broadcast from the belfry. Just like this old bell tower, they have many stories to tell. Some old and some new. Follow me up these stairs, but mind your step. Ah, they're waiting for you.
That was a bad one.
No, I'm really bad at opening cans.
It just wasn't loud at all.
Oh, I think maybe Zoom just cut it out.
Get the good.
Since it's not like actually carbonated, it doesn't make it's just pressurized, like the can is pressurized.
That was my bad.
So when I texted you earlier that my body was rejecting me, I was sitting here getting my laptop set up and everything, and I was snacking on some string cheese and drinking my water, as one does, just having a little snack pre-recording.
Yeah, all right.
And all of a sudden, I was like, I'm going to throw up right now. It's happening. I sprinted to the bathroom, which granted is right there, and promptly did not throw up. Thought I was going to. And then all of a sudden, the energy flowing through me shifted downwards.
And you shit everywhere.
And I just took a egregious shit.
I just had to go pee before we recorded, but I realized my shorts were on backwards. And then how I just almost died is because I noticed that my phone had been recording like a voice message to you for the past 11 and a half minutes.
That's hilarious. That happens to me all the time, specifically with you. But yeah, that's my digestive story, and that's why I texted you just 2.5 minutes later, like, I'm good now, because I wasn't really sure what was happening to me.
Your digestive venture.
Yeah, I was really experiencing something there.
I can't wait to have a house full of people who I assume just all have bowel issues.
Yeah,
I mean, if they're friends of us, I just assume they do.
Probably.
I have so many fart candles.
So what am I learning about today, Georgia?
Oh my god, are you ready to lose your head?
I'm ready to lose it.
All right, Mick Buddy, this one's for you, my guy.
Hell yeah.
If you even still listen, which I hope you do. Let me get comfy, hold on.
I just realized the mic's not plugged in.
Oh, is that why you sound weird?
You never said that.
Oh, that's... Well, I just assumed that it was like a weird connection or something. It wasn't like terrible, it was just kind of like a little bit muffly.
That's probably why you couldn't hear the...
Yeah, probably. All right.
Well,
it's way better now.
Sorry to everyone that just had to hear that. We were using my laptop's microphone, which, granted, isn't that bad. Actually, It might be hooked up to my headphones right now. Or
it wasn't.
Previously.
It wasn't terrible. I mean, I think it was your headphones. Mick, here's that episode of Screaming Skulls you asked for.
Yay!
Months ago. Lancashire is the county in England where I grew up. I don't know if I mentioned that before.
No way!
But probably. Yeah, you also have relatives from there, and that's amazing.
I do. Manchester and Lancashire. Which is amazing, but not
because my grandma is from Manchester, so
yeah.
Yay!
Our ancestors knew one another.
Maybe.
Hell if I know.
There are a few Screaming Skull legends specifically in Lancashire, but the lore of Screaming Skulls is found throughout Britain. And so I just figured I'd focus on some of the more popular, well-known stories and skulls that you can go visit.
Ooh.
Whether you should ethically or not, that's just, I mean, if it's, if it's there, I'm gonna go look at it and then have mixed feelings about the fact that I'm looking at it, probably. But that's just how I feel at all museums anyway.
It's true.
Oh, that reminds me. Do you know James Acaster, the comedian?
Mm-hmm.
Shannon has never seen. He had that like Netflix special with the 4 episodes that he did a few years ago. And Shannon had like seen clips of him on TikTok before, but he didn't know that he had this like full Netflix special. So we've been watching that, and we just watched the 3rd episode on, what is today, Sunday? We just watched it on Friday night.
Nice.
And it was the one where he has the bit about the Elgin marbles and the British Museum. And I was just like, oh, I forgot this existed. So funny. 10 out of 10. Everyone go watch it.
Very
it's really
funny.
Anyway, interestingly, many legends of Screaming Skulls happen in places that have Celtic origins. Like the names have, so England, you have like Roman town names and Saxon town names and Anglo town names and Celtic town names.
Yeah.
A lot of the more popular ones happen in these towns that have Celtic names. Some people think there might be some kind of superstition there or something. The skulls are also often displayed in liminal places or entry points, like doorways and windowsills and hearths, up in rafters. The surrounding folklore is generally described as a British tradition with superstitious people that know Screaming Skulls belong to certain places. And the point is that they scream if they are removed from those places. Which, like, I scream when I am removed from my bed or my house in general.
Yeah.
But
mood.
So some people think they're emotionally attached to a particular house or place. Some people think that they're guardians of a particular house or place. Other people think that they are vengeful spirits. And then depending on what particular story or legend you're looking at, you can find examples of each different type. And the theme is just before a traumatic or violent death, the person expresses a wish to be buried on their property or in a certain place. And the skull screaming is a response to whether or not that wish was fulfilled. So in 1996, an author doing research on Screaming Skull legends found that there are 32 English skull legends recorded. Most of the skulls themselves are missing.
As of now?
Yes. Well, as of 1996, yeah.
Oh, okay. Which was like 28 years ago.
Most are missing. 7 of them are confirmed to be walled up inside the house. And 10 of them are on display.
Oh, all right.
Like I said, some believe that the origins date back to Celtic times, hence why they're all in towns with Celtic names, when skulls were believed to house the soul and they were an important part of magic rituals and that kind of thing. I'm not as well versed in like Celtic things as I wish I was. It's just one of those things that I need to research in my free time.
What free time?
All the research I do in my free time is for the podcast. But it's one of those things I want to be reading more about, especially for like my...
For your book club?
Kinda. I was going to say for my craft. Not that I have a craft, but
just
like...
for your own edification?
Yeah, like my own, not spiritual journey, but my own pagan roots journey, I guess. I'm very British, so genetically speaking...
I had no idea.
Oh, you didn't?
Miss from Lancashire.
And like I said, the skills are often kept in those liminal spaces, which have their own weird vibes, don't they? Like, in those kind of, like, even in modern witchcraft, like your doors and your entry points and, like, your hearths and, like, these places where people and energy and, like, all kinds of things come in and out, those are the spaces that you want to protect the most, right? Even physically from intruders, like so there's maybe some significance there. You can also compare this to relic veneration, I think.
I mean, yeah. I could, yeah.
And there's another theory that the significance of the skull was because of the Jacobean cult of melancholy, because a lot of the stories date back to like 15th, 16th century, 17th century, and the Jacobean cult of melancholy really came around in the 16th century, like late 15th century, after the plague, everyone was dying, and we get those like the memento mori imagery in art. That's the Jacobean cult of melancholy, like that. Oh, we're all gonna die anyway, kind of thing.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Which is my ultimate vibe.
We're all gonna die anyway. Might as well just go crazy.
So the contemplation of death was popular, basically, is the point. And skulls were kind of symbolic of that.
Right.
So the Jacobean cult of melancholy is 16th century. Most of the stories date between the 15th and 17th centuries. But there's also a lot of unrest in that time in the history of England. You have 15th century, the Reformation, the persecution of Catholics, which we've already talked quite a bit about. We have the civil wars in the 17th century. I think we've kind of talked about that a little bit, right? Or have I just talked about that outside of the podcast like a big nerd?
I think it might have been mentioned, but definitely not at length.
Okay, I can give a quick summary because I have one of my notes. It's technically the Second Civil War, but it's all the same people and the same problems, so I don't know why it matters.
I mean, what else is new?
I know. So you have the parliamentarians, or the Roundheads, fighting against the royalists, or the Cavaliers. And the parliamentarians are led by Oliver Cromwell, and they're the ones who think that the monarchy has too much power, and Charles has been a dick abusing this power. I hate that word.
What?
I hate that this is a thing that we're talking about now in an election year.
Oh.
And then the royalists are loyal to the monarchy, of course. And then there's also this fight for religious freedom that's like the seasoning on this.
Seasoning?
Yeah. This is about 100 years after Henry VIII wanted to get a divorce, so he created the Church of England and split from the Catholic Church, right?
Oh, yeah.
So Charles I, God, I just remembered when Mike Barnes texted me about, isn't Charles as a name for the king cursed? Do you remember that?
I remember him texting you about that, but I don't remember what he was referring to.
It was right after the Queen died, and yeah. Anyway, so Charles I ended up surrendering when he was about to get captured, and he was executed for treason. So he became the first English king to be executed.
Oh.
And his son, Charles II, was exiled. So Oliver Cromwell died about 10 years later, and Charles II returned to the monarchy, and the monarchy was restored. And so Cromwell was posthumously convicted of treason, so they took his body from its tomb at Westminster and they hung it. He was the one who canceled Christmas as well, like officially.
Oh, he really was a dick.
Yeah. So that's the general sense of like society when the Screaming Skull legends start to populate themselves. The idea didn't really make its way into pop culture until the 19th century when like written ghost stories started becoming popular. And I can also tell you that, this is a side note, a lot of these aren't technically in Lancashire. Like I said at the top, I was going to hit some of the more popular ones. They're technically in Greater Manchester, but at the time, Greater Manchester was part of Lancashire, and the counties have since been redefined. So, fun fact.
By just a bunch of times.
Anyway. The most popular story from the area involves a skull that is kept at a place called Wardley Hall. So we'll have to go there sometime.
How do you spell it?
Wardley.
Thanks.
This silly story goes like this. During the reign of Charles II, post-Civil War, there's a guy named Roger Downes, and he did not have a great reputation, but he was walking across a bridge in London. Some people say it's London Bridge, other stories say it's Tower Bridge. I'd guess it was Tower Bridge because that's what most people are thinking about when they're actually imagining London Bridge, they're imagining Tower Bridge. Side note, pet peeve. He's walking along, and he says, I'm going to attack the next person I come across, just because he can.
Yeah.
And this person happened to be an unsuspecting tailor, and he cuts his throat and throws his body into the Thames. Because it was fun? I don't know. He does it again to the next guy, who was a watchman. But this guy wasn't fucking around. So he takes out his sword and cuts off Roger's head and throws his body into the Thames. Karma, I guess. But he puts the head into a box and sends it to Roger's sister at Wardley Hall. And she did a pretty normal thing and just had the head buried at the cemetery. But legend says that Roger didn't seem to like that because poltergeist activity started happening at the house, and people reported seeing Roger's spirit probably still walking around being a dick. So people kept complaining to his sister until she got tired of it. So she had his head brought back to the house while she tried to decide what else to do with it. And all the weird stuff just stopped. So she just kept it there.
She's following her instincts.
Which is a great story. But in 1799, Roger's body was exhumed and his head was still attached to the rest of him.
Oh.
So the second, more realistic story is about a man named Father Ambrose Barlow, who was a 16th century Catholic. He is now considered a martyr, and this would have been before the Civil War when practicing Catholicism was considered heresy. So it was believed that he was conducting a Sunday Mass when a mob led by a Protestant preacher just came in, carried him off to be hung, drawn, and quartered, and then his head was displayed on a spike either in Manchester or at Lancaster Castle as a warning to others. And then eventually a Catholic sympathizer stole it and returned it to Wardley Hall, which I think was and still is home to, the Catholic Bishop of Salford, which is where my grandma was from, Salford. Oh. And there it was treated like a holy relic. So if we go there, we can see the Catholic bishop, I guess. It kind of disappeared for a while. And part of me wants to be like, how do you lose a skull? But after working in curation for however long it's been, I don't feel the need to ask that question anymore, you know?
It's been 2 years and 2 months.
What a 2 years and 2 months it's been.
What a solid 26 months.
You know, this is off topic, but Bella, it must have been a couple weeks ago. I think right before the 4th.
Bella Hadid? Sorry.
Bella, our grad student.
Yeah, I know.
She came in, and we were just like chatting, and she was kind of venting.
Yeah.
She was like, I never really thought I'd want to do this as a job, but I was just thinking, I just want to do what Georgia does. And I was like, that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. Made me really happy, because I don't think I do anything, but
If only jobs like ours existed elsewhere. We are so incredibly lucky.
Yeah, that's a whole other topic of conversation.
It sure is.
Anyway, so I'm not surprised. It was rediscovered in the 1740s, the skull, and that's when the screaming legend supposedly began, because the servant who found it thought it was an animal skull. How?
I don't know, man.
Even if you don't know anything about anatomy, you can be like, this looks like a person, and this looks like a dog.
Have you seen those, I think they might be gibbon skulls that look eerily like human skulls?
Like the way that raccoon paws look like baby hands?
A little bit, yeah. I am a part of this subreddit where people ask, what is this bone? Because people are curious about whether it's human or animal, and if it's animal, what animal is it?
I love that there's a whole subreddit for that.
There sure is. And I and other people have participated in saying, like, yes, that is part of a snake. That's not human. Yeah. That's too small. What are you talking about? That's a snake vertebrae. Shut up. You know nothing. I don't say that. Other people do. It's really kind of infuriating. But sometimes folks from outside of, the United States in broken English will ask, is this a human skull? And it's almost always this kind of ape that looks like almost like a juvenile human. But so to someone who doesn't know, they're like, oh my God, call the police. That's illegal. You can't have that. There's been a crime. And then those who have been able to compare in person ape and monkey skulls with those of Homo sapiens, they're like, no, girl, you good. You good. Anyway, I kind of got off on a tangent. I'll find what I'm talking about.
I'm thinking, like, because a lot of those have the real prominent, the front part of your mandible, and the maxilla is really prominent, protruding. You keep looking, and I'll keep going.
Yes, apologies. I just wanted to talk about that real quick.
Yeah, I just want to know what type of...
what primate it is?
Yeah.
I will find it, I swear to God.
That reminds me of when we were at the Field Museum a couple weeks ago, and we were in the one hall with all the animals and everything, because of course we were, and Shannon's running around like a child being like, oh my God, that's a whale! Like, with the big whale skeleton that's hanging on the ceiling, but he said exactly what type of whale it was as he was running towards it like a toddler.
Whales are cool.
I mean, they are, but it's just become a much bigger part of my life recently. But anyway, so I was like, the one part that they have in there about evolution, and then they have the different ape skeletons, and I was just going on a tangent about eyes and how cool eyes are, and I was like, this is the only thing I can contribute to this enthusiasm right now. So, not that eyes are apes, but you are following my point, I think.
I am. Eyes are tapirs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which are the other side of the tree.
Yeah.
What's that word? There's like great apes and lesser apes, and then where that stuff falls.
Oh wow. Dr. Dirkmack would kill me that I can't remember this. I could call Lily right now and be like, what is this?
Well, anyway, failed anthropologists.
Anyway.
Okay. So he finds a skull and he thinks it's an animal somehow and just throws it into the moat. I guess there's a moat now. And that night there's a huge storm, which was uncharacteristic for that time of year. And the owner finds out what the servant did, so he orders the moat to be drained so the skull can be retrieved and returned to the house. And now it's in a little nook behind glass next to the main staircase of the house, which, I guess is a private residence, okay. And it's written in the lease that the skull should never be removed or it will release a blood-curdling scream. So what I'm taking from this is that no one's ever actually heard it scream. There was a storm.
Probably not.
There was, poltergeist activity, which I guess could include screaming, but no one has specifically said screaming. The next story I have is about a place called Timber Bottom Farm.
Hold on. Pember Bottom Farm.
Timber Bottom.
Hember Bottom?
Timber. Like wood. Timber.
Oh, timber. Oh, I'm not getting the
Timber Bottom.
I still didn't get it that time.
Timber Bottom.
Okay,
Timber Bottom. Timber Bottom. Should we make a button that just says Timber Bottom?
Timber Bottom.
Timber Bottom Farm.
Got it that time.
Oh my God. After 2 skulls were pulled out of the nearby Bradshaw Brook. Man, I think one of my favorite things about England is that some of the place names just sound fake.
Yeah.
These 2 skulls were believed to be from burglars, 2 burglars who were caught by a servant who beheaded them, and then another servant threw the heads in the brook. And eventually, owners reported seeing a pair of men fighting, but dressed in old-timey costumes in the kitchen, and the scene played out monthly. And that pots and pans would also fly around the kitchen, and cabinets are banging. So they moved the skulls to a nearby churchyard, but that didn't make a difference. So then they offered a guy to take them and keep them on a Bible. And then after he died, they were returned to the house where they apparently still are. And the current owners of the property say that they don't really believe in the legends, but they just keep the skulls in an upstairs storeroom on top of a Bible just in case.
Valid. There's always a good just in case.
I'm a big fan of just in case.
I found what I was talking about, by the way. There was a post 3 years ago that says all of this is on r/bone collecting, by the way, because they also do bone ID there. All of these were found in a harpy eagle nest.
Oh, I love harpy eagles.
There's a lot of primate material, and quite a bit of it, especially the long bones, and there are a few of the skulls in there where just from the way that they're facing the camera, it's like, this is eerily a little more human-like than you would expect a primate to, like, the features they would have. A lot of them are, in fact, gibbon skulls, like I guessed.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. There's also some, like, armadillo shells. There's a big-ass snake egg, all kinds of vertebra. It's really fascinating. I will send you the picture right now, if I can find how to download it. What was that?
I'm just knocking shit over. It's fine.
Why can't I download this? This is absurd. I'm going to have to send the link because I can't save the picture. Maybe because it's from 3 years ago. Usually posts are archived on...
I was going to say, just screenshot it.
Reddit. Well, yeah, but it already has kind of bad quality. I think it was like a save and repost situation.
Oh, okay.
If you knew nothing about skulls, you'd be like, what is that? Is that a human?
Yeah. And those long bones, man, look at those.
Exactly. Especially the one femur.
Yeah.
Convincing.
Cool. I love harpy eagles. They're so cool.
They're so cool.
That's massive and scary.
Sorry to totally derail.
No, but to continue the derail for a second, harpy eagles are one of those things that exist that make me not surprised that someone would see a harpy eagle and be like, holy shit, that's a fucking demon. Or, you know, like, they're just so crazy looking and awesome and huge. Anyway.
It's a dinosaur. That's how I feel about herons.
Chickens.
Chickens. They're also dinosaur-esque.
I want some chickens so bad. We had chickens when I lived in Washington and I loved them. And you never have to buy eggs, and it's great.
You never have to buy eggs, and they eat all your bugs.
They do eat all your bugs. And you can get the ones with the fun feathers on top. Or Polish crested.
I know you want those so bad.
I love a Polish crested. The one that we had at the house, we had 12, and we had like a different, we had like the gold ones, very Stardew Valley. We had a Polish crested. We had the speckled one. We had, just like a fun little mix. The Polish crested's name was Phryne, after Phryne Fisher.
Cute.
Because she always wears hats.
Yeah.
Anyway. So Timber Bottom Farm, that story is connected to maybe another story where allegedly a third skull was also pulled out of the brook, and that third one is kept at a place called the Packhorse Inn, which was built in the 15th century, and the skull was said to have been placed in the pub as a form of ridicule, like dishonoring the person. And a museum offered to take it, but the owners turned it down, stating that removing it would bring bad luck. And then there's another slightly different version of the story that says all three skulls were fished out of the brook together, but no one knows why one ended up in the pub, but 3 ghostly figures have been seen together in the kitchen there. The most popular story about this skull at the Packhorse Inn, it's above the bar, like it's right above the bar.
Mm-hmm.
So we should go here too, just for funsies. The most popular theory is that it belongs to a guy named George Hoole, whose wife and children were murdered by royalist soldiers. This is why the history lesson was important. Acting under the orders of a guy named James Stanley, the 7th Earl of Derby, and their murders were part of over 1,000 people killed in what's now called the Bolton Massacre. I kind of also assume that that's why George R.R. Martin chose
the Boltons
to be the way they are.
Yeah.
The Earl was later captured by Cromwell's soldiers and sentenced to death for supporting a pretender to the throne, Charles II, and that George was the one to cut his head off.
Well, maybe deserved.
Yeah. Again, no one knows how or why the skull got to be above the bar. I mentioned that the skull story started to become part of pop culture, so this particular one inspired a story called The Executioner's Skull by someone named Teddy Ashton. I heard this story on that Lovecraft podcast that I listened to originally. And the story is about a drunk guy stealing the skull from that pub as a joke, and later that night the landlord is woken up by a banging on his door, and the guy is there with the skull begging him to take it back. And it's written phonetically and terribly, but it goes something along the lines of, when I got home, I put the skull in the dresser and I went to bed, and I was woken up by something hitting me on the nose, and I sit up and I see something bobbing up and down like a giant moth of ghostly blue color shining like phosphorus with 2 great blazing eyes. I saw that it was a skull, the very skull I'd been such a fool as to bring away, and there came a blood-curdling voice saying, "Take me back to where I should be, or I'll torment thy soul out of thee." So the landlord takes the skull back, and then he tells this story later to a group of other customers who, of course, didn't believe him, so one of them decides to steal it for himself and takes the skull, and he and 2 of his friends were confronted on the road by a ghostly headsman. Headlessman? What is this supposed to say?
Headless horseman? Or just without the horse?
I guess. I wrote a ghostly headsman. I don't know what that means.
I mean...
I think a headless person, probably.
Sure.
Wielding an axe and telling them to take that skull back or I'll chop thy silly head off. And the figure follows the 3 men back to the inn, and as soon as they hand the skull to their landlord, it disappears. And in real life, a photographer moved the skull just a little bit to get better lighting, but then his flash wouldn't work and his battery died. And on extra festive occasions, someone will usually buy the skull a drink. So, that's fun.
That's
definitely
fun.
Some creative license in the story, but not
like
the most
it.
ridiculous short story that has been inspired by some of these legends. There was another one on that podcast by F. Marion Crawford, who is like a fairly well-known weird fiction author. And this one is super dumb. Most of his stories I actually like, but this one's super dumb, and it's wrong for no reason in particular. Nothing really happens. But this guy is a retired captain, and he's having dinner with his cousin and his cousin's wife, and he tells them about this woman who he had heard about that murdered 3 of her husbands by drugging them to sleep and then pouring molten lead in their ear. And not too long after, the cousin's wife suddenly dies, and the cousin is acting all shady until he shows up dead on the beach, and he'd been carrying a box out of which a skull had rolled, and it was found near his head. And after being examined, it was determined that his windpipe was crushed, and he had weird little bite marks all around his throat. And the guy killed his wife's dog, too, because he wouldn't stop howling, but the howling continued after. So he sucks. So the captain inherits his cousin's place, and he's feeling pretty suspicious that the guy was inspired by the story he had told, so he was feeling guilty. And the skull that the guy was carrying around, police were just like, oh, it's just like a medical specimen or something that he had. And they give it Fucking shit. I just keep knocking everything over.
They gave it fucking shit.
Just knocked my water cup on the fog machine.
Oh, oops. Did it spill?
That's not too bad. A little bit came out my straw, but
I
think it'll be okay. Yes, they gave it shit. So he puts this box in the skull in the cabinet in the bedroom, and it screams like a banshee. And it gets out a couple of times and always comes back to the door, but the story ends with a news article about the captain's death because he was found with a crushed windpipe and bite marks on his throat determined to be from a woman.
Oh my god, how could they tell that it was a woman?
Right? Forensics, man, that's wild.
Infuriating. That's infuriating. I hate that so much. What a load of bull hockey.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So that was just a fictional story inspired from some of these legends. The author credits the inspiration specifically to a place called Bettiscombe Manor, which is in the south of England. And the screaming skull at this house, this is kind of a rough one, is said to be from an enslaved person who he said wanted his body to be returned home, but the owner of the estate was like, no, that'll cost me money, so I'm just going to bury you here. And so the skull screamed and screamed and screamed and screamed and screamed.
Same.
Yeah. I would also like to note, to backtrack, pouring molten lead in someone's ear would not be enough to kill them, for the record.
I think I could kind of guess that.
Yeah, because lead is too soft. Like, it would cool too quickly because it's such a soft metal. So it would, kind of hurt. It might fuck up, your ear canal, but it wouldn't kill you. And you actually can't fit that much liquid into an ear canal, apparently.
No, it's too pressurized. Unless it would be hot enough to melt the eardrum.
Yeah, but
and then it would pour into your sinuses, which would, kill you.
Yeah, but that's...
kill you slowly.
It's too soft to stay hot long enough to do any major damage like that.
Yeah. It would just cause your sinuses to slowly rot away from the weight pressing down on your face.
Oh my god.
You know what I mean?
It sounds disgusting. I mean, as someone who gets a lot of migraines from sinus pressure, that sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, because lead is heavy, so...
Oh, yes, the melting point of lead is 621.5 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay, well, but how quickly does it cool down? Basically, this was based on a legend, a French legend, actually, of a woman who was caught trying to kill her seventh husband this way.
Uh-huh.
But no one knows if there's any accuracy in that story.
Lead is a neurotoxin that accumulates in soft tissues and bones. It damages the nervous system and interferes with the function of biological enzymes, causing neurological disorders ranging from behavioral problems to brain damage, and also affects general health, cardiovascular, and renal systems. So,
yeah, I think the lead poisoning would do more damage than the actual, pouring of it into your ear. Like I said, that would probably hurt, but the real damage would come from it seeping into your bones.
Yeah. It can be scratched with your fingernail. You can just make a line through it.
It's not like you're Drogo pouring molten gold onto some dumbass's head, That's pretty much all that I was going to talk about Screaming Skulls. There is a movie from 1958 called The Screaming Skull, which is apparently pretty terrible. And I'm only assuming it's terrible because Mystery Science Theater 3000 used it for one of their movies. So, But it makes me really glad that we already talked about ghosts, since there's a lot of ghostly activity.
Yes.
Mentioned.
If you became a screaming skull, and you were put in a place that you could not be, from which you could not be removed lest you start screaming, What would that location be?
I don't know, man. Probably.
I think mine would be like sat in front of the TV.
I was gonna say,
like
my
potato.
bed, but like also.
I mean, but if that's that,
But also, I think, like, realistically, like, my bed's not going to be there for all time, or, there's not always going to be a TV in one spot.
Sure, but you could guarantee that it would always be there.
You could have it written in the lease like these other people. But realistically...
Or else George's skull will start screaming. So you have to keep it. She'll haunt you for all eternity.
I think I would want to be overlooking my beach at home.
Mm-hmm.
So I would become another Lancashire screaming skull. Let's keep the tradition going.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. I didn't really write any discussion points or anything for this one, so.
That's fine. That's the only discussion I wanted to know about.
Okay. Shannon and I have already discussed having a mausoleum where we just get to where our bones will just rot together.
Mm-hmm.
Like as romantically as possible in death.
Sure.
So we're the weird little goth kids.
Hell yeah. Them skulls do be screaming though. I scream in my car so much. Maybe I should have my skull be put in my car.
Like that one episode of Bones.
Yeah.
Your car is just crushed into a cube and your skull is there and it's just on display somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But what is your scream though?
What is my scream?
Yeah, like...
Do you want me to do it?
Do it, yeah.
Well, what if Mary Lou's listening?
I felt really bad because as soon as we walked in the door last night was when I stubbed my toe on the tank, the cabinet part, and I just went, fuck! So, because it hurt, like, I mean, I said it was bleeding. It hurt so bad.
You just let out a lot of tension in that moment.
It was the kind of hurt that, like, it was just my toe that hurt, but it hurt in a way that made my teeth hurt. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
So I was just like, ah! And I was like, God, and I knew Katie was outside in her yard, and I was like, I hope she didn't hear that and think that, like, we were fighting or something. It just hurt so bad. I just, like, dropped to the ground and was like, ah! And then I was like,
I didn't hear it.
I was like standing in the sink with like my foot, standing in the bathroom with my foot in the sink. Even my blisters that I got in Chicago, it like scraped the top of like my callus from that blister off as well, which was like disgusting. Ugh, it was horrible. Anyway,
well, that's lovely. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I hurt myself.
What would your scream be? That?
No, I think mine would be like like something that was not scary enough to be
Hi, Milo.
Terrifying, but like weird enough to be just like, this is terrible. How do we make it stop?
Oh, I see what you mean.
You know?
No, mine would be like guttural. Like my scream that I do when I'm in the car. I can record that and send it to you so you can add it to this.
Fully know what your scream in the car sounds like because I've heard it multiple times.
I do it a lot, yeah.
Hannah will be like, can you just give me a minute? And I just stand outside the car while she screams in it, and then I get inside.
Yeah. It usually happens because I just need, it's like a stim, because I get overstimulated very easily. I just need to let it out sometimes because I have no healthy way of letting it out.
But you do it all at once. Like my vocal stim is like constant through, I'm always just like, and it's, like all day long, and you just do it all at once at the end of the day.
Yeah. My day long stim is picking at the sides of my fingernails.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It sure is.
Yeah.
And then we can come home and be depressed and
play our game.
Phone games.
And get 15th place globally.
Oh,
so sad. So depressing.
Hey, that's an
I
accomplishment.
don't even know what this
Some
game is
people would
called.
think.
Like, I'm so serious right now.
I don't know what the one that merge game. I don't know what it's called either. The one that I've been playing.
Frozen City.
Oh,
That's the name of it.
mine's a beach theme. I can tell you that. I'm
Nice.
currently trying to rebuild the museum, the Seaside
Oh,
Museum.
this one isn't the merge one. This is one of those ones where you what do I mean? It's like a survival-esque game. It's freaking stupid, dude.
Oh.
I can't even. It pisses me off. The other one also pisses me off. The merge one.
Yeah.
I have never once ranked in that game. I think maybe enough people play it that it's like damn near impossible.
Yeah.
But I feel like that one, they invite you to spend money more than like this other game.
Oh, yeah.
They're like,
well, you're gonna run out of energy so fast, which is annoying. The other one I play is Zen Word, which is like the one where you have to make the words out of the letters. And then I have a scavenger hunt one, which pisses me off.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, I have like 2 things left to find, and I can never fucking find them.
My favorite one that I've literally been playing since like maybe 2016 is called Adventure Communist.
Oh, I think you showed me that game before.
Yeah. The more popular one is called Adventure Capitalist.
I had that what's that game that I was playing for a long time when we first started doing field work. That was the Manor one.
Merge Manor?
It wasn't Merge Manor. It was
Manor Mysteries?
No.
I thought it was a mystery one.
It was like the find the objects and then pictures and like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I can't remember which one it was. It was one of those. I should download that again. That's how I know I'm really
exactly me with Farmville, bruh. I'm gonna find it. Manor Matters?
Manor Matters, that's the one.
Yeah.
Is it the one with the little butler guy?
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, him and I are depressed, and that's how you can tell, because we've been playing games and not doing anything else on our phones. Okay. Come back next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Just kidding. Come to Champaign for August 31st and September 1st so you can come to the convention where we'll have a table.
Yeah. Come get buttons from us and we will...
Yeah. And see our cool display that we're going to have.
Yeah. Come check out Shannon's art.
Buttons.
Maybe
Shannon will have some art for sale.
Yes.
At least 3 pieces, hopefully, is what he's gonna aim for 3. And if he does more, then cool. And if he doesn't, then that's cool too.
We'll have some art pieces by Hannah. I'm just gonna shit on the
table. I was gonna say, are we? What if I made like a turd out of clay?
Oh Lord.
And like it was art that is your shit.
No, thank you.
Like a poop emoji, but it's clay.
I would be so ashamed. I would be so ashamed.
I'm wanting to do stuff with clay lately, but not the way my mom does, just like, you know, like air dry or oven flake clay. And I was like, but, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, bye. Tune in next week.
Bye for real this time.
Where's the button?
Well, that concludes this week's broadcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you wish to stay in touch, reach out to us at broadcastfromthebelfry@gmail.com or stalk us on Instagram at broadcastfromthebelfry. Again, I hope you've enjoyed our little show. Please rate and review. And until next week, stay spooky.